Sorry, I'm a bit late. 8:30. I normally go live at 8 o'clock. As you know, don't always get the opportunity. Sometimes I'm running a bit late in my duties for the day, and I do often work quite late, like I will be tonight, because we're getting everything ready for January outturn, which is very exciting. We will have one last sort of, for those who are interested, those who are members and like to know when things are coming out. We've got I think 3 new casks coming online, either 2 or 3 new casks coming online, I think by Friday this week. And then the next big release will be, of course, January Outturn, which will next year, for 2020, will be on the second Friday of the month, because the first Friday falls so early this year. So we'll let everyone know about that shortly, but instead of being the 3rd, I think it's going to be the 10th. And we've got some special, at least 2 big announcements in that Outturn to make. As well as lots of lovely whiskies to explore. My hair is misbehaving again tonight. For those who like the hair update. Hi Matt, bye Matt. Okay, Talk Whiskey to me joined. Muzzman, good to see you. Soon the YouTube's in 45. Yeah, I'll put this back up to YouTube. We always put these videos up to YouTube at the end of it. And I know some of you like a Monday rant, and I've got a little bit of a Monday rant to go on. But there's 2 things I want to touch on. First of all is what I wanted to talk about, and second of all is just my little rant for the Monday. And it's a bit of a tradition now going that I like to have a bit of a rant on Mondays, because it's pre-talk on the outturn. Yeah. Look, it's every night I'm live, and so the only thing I'm telling you about outturn is that it falls on the 10th of January this time, rather than the 3rd, because the 3rd is just too early in the month for us to be able to handle that. And some of us are still on leave at that point, as far as I know, so it's kind of like we're pushing it to the 10th to make sure that everything works in time for it. And it's always, January Outturn's always a lovely sort of lighter issue, lots of summery kind of casks, really good summer dramming kind of ideas for January, February to see you through. And then, yeah, there you go. So January and February are often quite summery and quite sort of bright, and we see some lovely team refills and some lovely first fills, but often those kind of really summery kind of casks. And that sort of leads me on to talking about mood, and which we've talked about before, about how different flavors, and different times of year you drink different types of whiskey. Like, for me, I tend towards lighter profiles in summer and heavier peated styles in winter. But I also drink more Armagnac in summer, which I love. And there's different ways to experiment with that as well. How you mix it up and how you drink it, and whether you drink it neat, whether you drink it on ice, and however you enjoy it, whatever you mix it with as well. You could try Armagnac and ginger. That can work sometimes quite nicely. But, of course, it's entirely up to you. Sally Joan, good to see you. What I wanted to touch on was talking about literature for a second. Now, I normally have Murray with me if I'm talking about literature, and I'm going to get Murray back on again. But I've just realised, I was just looking at this earlier, that we have a massive outturn, which had all this like great writing in it, member stories, which were fantastic. Scott Brickhill there, Alex Moore's there, Susie, me, Andre, Andrew, Georgia, Will, Alex. Georgia, I know you're tuned in at the moment, so there you are. I'll embarrass you just a little bit there. There you go. You're in outturn. You knew that already. Thank you so much for writing that for outturn. Members, we got a lot of great feedback from people reading about these stories from member experiences, which was fantastic. And I also realised that we released the Founder's Tale earlier this year, which Murray and I did a full stream on, and you can catch it on our YouTube channel. Just search Scotch Malt Whisky Society Australia. It's the first channel you should find in that search on YouTube, and please subscribe. But we did a bit of a book review on this, which was fantastic. That was good fun talking about Pip Hill's book, the founder of the society. And then I just realised this actually just got printed, and I've been meaning to show you on the live stream for about 4 or 5 days since copies arrived in my office. But of course, it's the latest issue of Unfiltered, issue number 44. So that's pretty cool. 44 issues of Unfiltered means that it's been going about, it's quarterly, so my maths isn't that good. But at least I'd say at least 10 years or so. But it's 44 divided into, anyway. So it's been going about 10 years, maybe 12 years now. We used to do a publication called The Newsletter, which had all the details of like things going on at the society. That got turned into Unfiltered, and then this is the 44th issue of Unfiltered. It's a great magazine. You know what? You know when you read magazines that come out by brands or by clubs or whatever it is, And like if you've ever had the unfortunate, if you've ever been in the unfortunate position to have to read BMW magazine or Lexus magazine or Callaway Golf Monthly, nothing against any of those brands or anything, but if you've ever had the disfortune of reading like their in-house magazine, they're always just like branding, ads, and then like you're reading it like a European car X. I'll say BMW. I've got nothing against BMW, but you're reading this magazine, and every second page is an advertisement about their magazine or their cars or whatever it is they're promoting. Whereas this is more about the experience of whiskey, a bit like what I'm trying for this live streams to be, is more about the experience and the discussion and the people and the events and the distilleries and the farms and everything that make what this scene is, rather than it just being like one big giant society advertisement. And it's not. You know what? Here you go. In the heads up section, the news about the society, which is SMWS news and member updates and society gatherings, you can check this out. Look at this. Celebrating a world of winners. It's like about the recent awards we've won for casks at the society. That's fantastic. But once you pass that page, that one page out of 40 something pages in this issue, 44 pages, it's about like there's a whole document here about the history of Leith as an area in Scotland, and then copycats in Korea and collecting old and rare whiskey and how to spot a fake. This actual article is in Unfiltered, but it's also going to be online on our website very shortly as well. So keep an eye out for that. We often post content to our society blog, by the way, on smws.com.au/news, and we don't often post it around on social media or to members very often. So we do, but not all of them. So it's always worth checking that page, just seeing what's coming up. About pairings, about flavour discovery. And Georgia, just because I know you're still in here, just by the way, did you know that you also, not only are you in Outturn, you were in Unfiltered as well. This goes out to 100,000 people. And you made it to this one as well. You're very much in the distance here. But I'll see if I can squeeze you out that one in for you. I don't mean to embarrass you, sorry. But you can see for yourself when you get to page 22. Now, we'll be delivering these, I think, with the January Outturn, I think. If you've got yours already, then I'm incorrect. But, yeah, oh man, that was cool. There you go. So, yeah, there's distillery facts and info. It's such a great publication. It's so much fun. Let me grab some of these comments coming through. Unfiltered is just good whiskey reading overall, not just the society. The caliber of authors is impressive, and they do some of their best magazine articles for Unfiltered. Very, very true. In fact, if you spot some of the authors in here that write for this, of course, a lot of it is written by Richard Goslin, who's the editor, who was independent from the society for many years writing for it, and now works for us. We've also got authors like Ian Buxton. Ian Buxton is one of the most widely regarded whiskey authors of books and literature. He writes for Unfiltered. Of course, Angus MacRailed and Tom Bruce Gardine. I mean, these people are all like amazing writers. Yeah, look at this. This is all very cool. So I actually haven't properly dug into this issue yet. It's been sitting on my desk for a couple of days, but I haven't properly dug into it yet. Look at this. There's a cool article here about distilleries, what's happening in Taiwanese distilling. That's very cool. So I'm really excited for this one to be coming out for members very shortly, issue 44. Actually, look at that back photo. I was actually on Isla when they took that photo, but I wasn't with them, of course. I didn't want to join in on that cycle race. The weather was absolutely horrid, rainy and windy that day. And Richard said he could probably find me a bike, but I knew it wouldn't be a great bike to ride around on and not in that weather with these guys. So there you go. Maybe next year. I'd love to be back over for Faish next year, actually. I'll admit it now. It's such an experience. If you do get the opportunity to do some whiskey travel in your life, I thoroughly recommend doing Faish. It was just amazing. Faish was truly amazing. I haven't even finished my full write-up from it, and that was back in May. So it won't be a massive article. I just want to write some notes down. And if you get a chance to tour around Speyside, of course, and the Highlands, Speyside's beautiful, of course. Like this. I mean, Speyside's a bit of a catch-all because there's so much happening there now. But if you get a chance to get down to Aberlour, get down to the Rothies, like that whole area is just stunning, and there's some lovely walks, and there's some lovely distilleries and great places to get some lunch and whatnot, and some great little B&Bs and places to stay at along the way. It is expensive being in Scotland during Faish, during the festivals, but any other time of year is pretty calm. I heard one story about one of the hotels. Sorry, it was actually Isla House. I'm sorry, I'll correct myself there. It was Isla House, where rooms during facial at Isla House are £750 a night. So that's quite something. And I was very proud. It was a huge moment for me this year to be able to host there. I've had a massive year. I think I might do a yearly wrap as my last. I'll do a list of yearly wrap of what the highlights for me of 2019 will be. I'll do that in about 2 weeks' time. Happy summer, everyone, by the way. It's the second day of Whisky Advent Calendars. For those who scored one, I didn't even score one. I kind of wanted one. Susie said, "Oh, you're going to buy one?" And I said, "I'm thinking about it." And then I thought about it, and it passed me by. But I was kind of glad that I missed out, not because I didn't want it, but it meant that a member could get the one that I was probably after. Because they all sold out, I'm afraid. But those who got the Whisky Advent Calendars, and you're tucking into sample number 2 tonight, if you are, that's fantastic. I didn't get one, so I'm going to stick with my my glass of water tonight. And that's and my little rant for tonight. I'm going to grab some of these comments on them. Yeah. Oh my God, says talk whiskey to me. Yes, I'm very sorry there, Georgia. Charlie Walk, Sable Scotch, Monarch Perth, Whiskey Sec. Good to see you all. I always take the time to go through it. Well worth the time. Yeah, Muzz, I thoroughly agree with you. I just haven't had a chance yet. I will have a chance to sit down and read that probably tomorrow night. Will be the first time I'd have a chance to properly read through Unfiltered. I learned so much that I'm able to actually communicate to members at our events as well through things like this. So if you've read Unfiltered cover to cover and you come to one of my tastings, you might find I'm covering old ground. But it's kind of like it's a bit of fun, and you learn so much from this literature, and from just meeting people and being a part of the whole scene, which is just what it's about. And sometimes that means going to events. Sometimes it means being online. Sometimes it means just getting together with a group of friends, drinking whiskey, and learning a few things. That's what it's about. And I know I say this that kind of line all the time, but I honestly mean it, and it means a lot to be able to share that with you as well. Where am I up to? My little rant for tonight. Today's one's from an IPA cask. Sally? Do you mind divulging the code for what tonight's whiskey is? I think it's a 35, isn't it? A 35 dot something, and it's from X IPA cask. Sally, if you get a photo of that miniature and your glass next to it or something, put it up in the Facebook group. I'd encourage you to post every day just to really rub it in, because otherwise I'll miss out on seeing them all. But I've got a list of all the whiskies. I just haven't looked at it. So, okay. So my little rant is: it takes great humility to admit you don't like a whiskey, especially if it's one you've spent good money on. I'm not sure if humility is the right word for it, but it takes. No, I think it is. I think that's the right word for it. If you spend, say, $50 on a bottle of whiskey, a really cheap bottle. I'll say $70, still a cheap bottle. You buy a $70 bottle of whiskey, you open it, you're not impressed. Okay, I'll come back tomorrow. Maybe it just needs a bit of time to settle. Doesn't get any better the next day. Come back a week later, you're in a different mood, different mind space. It's still not any better. I think for a $70 bottle, for most people, they can go, "Oh well, I tried it, but I don't like it. I won't buy it again." But it does take some humility. I'm going to keep using that word, but if you want to correct me, please do. It takes great sort of humility to open a, say, $300 bottle or a $400 bottle of whiskey and say to yourself, that's not really my thing. And then, coming back to it a week later and thinking, oh no, it's still not my thing. That's fine. You don't have to like every whiskey. And what I find is increasingly, and you see this especially on social media, and I'm using social media right now. I'm not a Luddite. I understand how it works. I'm just saying that there's a certain amount of you need a certain amount of just essence to be able to say and strength of character, I should say, where you can actually taste something and say, that wasn't what I was expecting, and I don't enjoy that. That's not really my style. And you're allowed to have a style, of course. You can say I don't like certain spirits, and I've openly admitted before I'm not a huge fan of tequila as a spirit, and that includes I like some mezcals, I even like some vodkas, but there's not many spirits I don't like, of course. But there are some that I tend towards others. Of course, I tend towards whiskey because that's one of my favorites. But at the same time, I just go, it's okay to not like certain spirits, and Hopping mad. Guts. Yeah, it takes certain guts, doesn't it? Yeah. It takes guts to say that. No, you're right, actually, Dram Nation. Yeah, Matt, you're entirely right. It takes a bit of guts and determination to say, it's like, I've bought this, it's not what I was expecting, and I don't really like it. That's okay. And I think that's really important to be able to do that, because you see a lot on social media these days, people who will fervently defend something they don't like, or they're not sort of fond of because they've spent money on it, so they have to justify enjoying it. And I find that absolutely strangely absurd. Let me put it this way. Let's put it into a different context for a moment. It seems to only exist in spirits for some reason. In the wine world, it's not even a thing. You see people opening $500-$600 bottles of wine and going, it's corked, it's tainted, it's not good, or that's the bad vintage, that's a shame, and then just sort of being done with it in a way. And of course, that's in quite premium circles of wine drinkers, of course. But you sort of say, they're okay doing that. Same with beer, but with whiskey and other spirits, it seems like it's not okay to dislike something sometimes. I don't know. That's my little rant for tonight. I just get that whole sort of like that funny vibe that, oh well, if you don't like it, it's like, I mean, I am a huge fan of the whole sort of, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all kind of approach. I think a lot of us could learn from that. But it's kind of like that's kind of it's one of those lines like. But if someone asks you, maybe it's like, oh, what did you think of Whiskey X? And you say, well, it wasn't really my thing, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be your thing. It's like, well, you see justification for it when it doesn't need to be justified. So that's my little rant, really. It's yeah, 53-234, cool. It's pretty good, yeah. Or no, one of my favorites, one of my favorite lines that you hear from people when they don't like a whiskey, they go, I don't have a whiskey glass in front of me. They'll say, interesting. That spirit is interesting. Which kind of like almost means, it's deeply, deeply flawed. What's wrong with that? I tasted some of these spirits that both locally and internationally that are deeply flawed, and I say they are deeply flawed. And you say, well, that's, they're, and often I'm asked to give advice on them, and it's like, well, it's very hard to give advice, especially when it's, blood, sweat, and tears that go into these things, and it's sort of a labour of love project for many people. But at the same time, there comes a point where you say, this is not really, it's not a great spirit. And you can say that and you shouldn't need to be worried about being chastised about it. Everyone has a different opinion. Everyone has a different palate. It's completely subjective. There's no such thing as the perfect whiskey. There's no such thing as a terrible whiskey. They all lie in the middle somewhere. What's that line? It's sort of like, well, they don't all lie in the middle somewhere. That's a bit of a cop-out. But, there are some whiskies that are, I guess would say, a bit more considered in their production and a bit more sort of structured in their approach, if you like. And as a result, because of that, they are a more enjoyable experience for most people. And that's a good thing. Maybe it's it's a hard one to pin down, because I'm sort of making statements here about subjectivity. So anyway. In the right company, we can throw the drams under the bus. On social media, a persona exists. Yeah, exactly, Muzz man. But that's the thing, Muzz. I'm talking about throwing a dram that you've paid for under the bus. Like if someone presents me Whiskey X, whatever it is, and I say, I don't really like that. It's much easier for me to say that than for them to say, I don't like it either. Whereas I find most people have a certain attachment to liking brand X, and they won't. And there's no budging on that because they've spent money on it. Let me equate it to motoring for a moment. If I bought a car and I drive that car for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I can't stand it, maybe I can't stand the clutch, or the steering is terrible, or it smells weird. If we're referring to like Jerry Seinfeld's Saab for a moment. That's a very, very, very specific and dated reference. I fully appreciate. But if Jerry Seinfeld takes a car in Seinfeld takes a car to his Saab to get serviced, and when he gets it back, it's got a weird smell, so he has to sell the car. But whatever it is, you wouldn't just live with it. You wouldn't be like, I'm going to live with it because it's I'm a miserable grump and I don't care. You'd want to get rid of it. You want to change something. So. Or at least in my case, I would. Whereas, in whiskey, we seem to be like, I don't like it, but I must enjoy it because I spent money on it. No, you don't have to enjoy it. You can find other ways to mix it up. You can find maybe it works better as a mixer, maybe it works better as giving it as a gift, whatever it is. Yeah, Dram Nation, overcooked, hot mess, burnt out. Oh, mate, I've lost track of the number of whiskies that I could call those three, all three of those. In fact, Dram Nation, I've used your very line before in this live stream of calling some whiskies that shall remain nameless uh, over mature. Sorry, over matured and underdeveloped, or was it over oaked and under matured? Yeah, over oaked and under matured, which is a thing. Mare Dram, yes, indeed, Muzz. That's a good one as well. Sometimes it's taken a few months for me to come around to enjoying a whiskey that hasn't appealed when I opened it. So, yeah, BBO, beyond BO, beyond BO, bad odor, beyond bad odor. Yeah, it's true. Actually, some whiskies do have a bad odor, especially terrible whiskies. You'd hope it to be the terrible ones and not the good ones. The 8 ball. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, look, great comments, everyone. Thank you so much. Always appreciate the feedback. Always appreciate you coming in, tuning in with me, having a bit of a chat. And Monday's always a good chance for us to debrief. I like to think of Monday almost at the end of the. It's like the end of the weekend chat, if you like. It's like we've all just endured our Monday back, and I really appreciate you coming into the stream, having a chat. And as always, you can watch this up on the story, or you can watch it on YouTube later. It'll be up in about 10-15 minutes, as always, after I finish. And then otherwise, please subscribe on YouTube. Any questions, I'll put the next live screen up on our story in a moment so you can ask questions for the live for tomorrow night. In the meantime, have a great evening, and I'll see you all soon.